In a quiet, isolated corner of the sprawling city, Jack spent most of his days surrounded by machines and the constant hum of his laboratory. A gifted scientist, he had dedicated his life to research, driven by a desire to unlock the mysteries of the universe. The world outside his lab was nothing more than a distant echo, a reminder of a life he had long abandoned. He had no need for the distractions of the outside world. His work was all-consuming, his only companions the devices he created and the digital files that filled the walls of his lab. He didn't care much for socializing, for family, or for anything outside the walls of his domain. All he needed was his research, and it was enough. That morning, the sun had barely risen when Jax first noticed something strange. The sensors at the entrance of his lab flickered to life, but no one should have been there. His heart skipped a beat. No one had visited him in years. It was just a few months ago that he had sent out the last of his messages for a conference on quantum physics, messages that had gone unanswered, just like all the others. Jax wasn't expecting company. So when he heard the sharp click of the door opening without the usual announcement of an intruder, he froze. The door opened slowly, the sound of the hinges creaking in the stillness. A figure stepped into the room, and for a moment, Jax couldn't quite comprehend what he was seeing. It was a woman, tall and graceful, with a presence that seemed to draw all the light in the room toward her. She wore a sleek, silver outfit that shimmered as though it were woven from the threads of the stars themselves. Her long, dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, and her eyes gleamed with an intensity that Jax couldn't quite place. She didn't say a word as she entered, her gaze fixed on him with an unyielding certainty. Jax's breath caught in his throat. There was something about her, something both familiar and entirely foreign. She walked toward him with a calm confidence, as though she knew exactly where she was going. Jax found himself rooted to the spot, unable to speak, unable to move. The woman stood before him, not more than a few feet away, her eyes studying him carefully. Jax opened his mouth, but the words didn't come. He couldn't understand why she was there or how she had gotten in. His lab was secure. No one could breach the security systems, not without an invitation. And yet here she was. Without a word, she reached for the clasp of her jacket. Jax blinked, trying to make sense of what was happening. She removed the jacket and let it fall to the floor, revealing more of the shimmering fabric beneath. With each movement, the intricate glowing patterns on her skin became more visible, swirls of light that seemed to pulse and shift as if alive. The tattoos covered her arms, her shoulders, and parts of her back, a radiant map of some unknown origin. Jax's mind raced, trying to make sense of the scene before him. Who was she? What was she doing here? His heart pounded in his chest as he instinctively took a step back, but the woman didn't move. She remained in the same spot, standing tall, her eyes never leaving his. And then, without any warning, she moved toward him. Jax barely had time to react as she closed the distance between them. Before he could speak, she placed a hand gently on his chest, her touch electrifying. The shock of it made his heart race, but he couldn't look away. He felt something shift inside him, a strange pull that seemed to come from deep within. She smiled, and the intensity of her gaze softened just for a moment. Then, in one smooth motion, she leaned forward and kissed him. It wasn't a kiss like any he had ever experienced. There was no passion, no hesitation, just a strange sense of ownership, as though she was claiming something that already belonged to her. Her lips were cool against his, and yet the touch was like fire spreading through his veins. Jax didn't know what to think. His mind was spinning, and his body was reacting in ways he didn't understand. He wanted to pull away, but something kept him there, something that made him feel like he was meant to be in this moment. When she pulled away, she looked at him with a quiet, almost knowing smile. "You're different," she said softly, her voice like music, soothing yet commanding. "You don't know it yet, but you have something inside you, something powerful, and I've come to help you understand it." Jack stood there, utterly stunned. His heart still raced from the kiss, but the words she had spoken echoed in his mind. Something powerful. Was she talking about his scientific work? He wasn't sure, but the way she said it made him believe that whatever she was referring to, it was far more than just his intellect. There was an air of mystery around her, something beyond the physical realm. "You must have questions," she continued, her tone no longer quite so mysterious. "And I'll answer them, but only when you're ready." Jax found his voice again, albeit a little shaky. "Who are you? How did you get in here? What is it that you want from me?" The woman's smile didn't waver. "My name is Lyra, and I've been sent to guide you. I've been watching you for a long time, Jax. You've discovered more than you realize. Your research, your brilliance, it's all part of something much greater than you could ever have imagined." Jax frowned. "Watching me? What are you talking about? I don't know who you are or how you found me, but I don't have time for games. I have work to do." Lyra's expression softened, and she took a step back, her eyes never leaving his. "You don't understand yet, but you will. The work you've been doing, it's important. You're more than just a scientist. You're the key to something far beyond Earth." Jax's mind raced. What was she saying? How could he, a mere scientist, be the key to something beyond Earth? This was madness. Before he could respond, Lyra held up her hand. "I'm not asking for your trust yet, Jax. I'm asking for your attention. Your life is about to change, and you'll either accept it or fight it. But in the end, you'll realize that you were always meant for something greater than the work you've been doing here." Jax opened his mouth to protest, but the words didn't come. He was confused, overwhelmed, and for the first time in a long time, he felt fear creeping in. "Come with me," she said, her voice softer now. "Let me show you what's really out there." Jack stood still for a moment, his mind still reeling. He wanted to refuse, to walk away, but something about her presence, something about the way she had kissed him, made him want to believe her. With a deep breath, he nodded. "All right," he said, his voice almost a whisper. "Show me." Lyra smiled, a glimmer of something deeper in her eyes, and turned toward the door. Without another word, she led him out of his lab and into the unknown, the beginning of a journey that would change everything. Jax followed Lyra through the corridors of the building, his mind spinning with questions. His lab, once the only place he felt truly at home, now seemed like a distant memory. The walls of the building appeared to close in on him as Lyra led him down a series of hallways that he didn't recognize. The corridors were stark and silent, illuminated only by the soft glow of light fixtures embedded in the walls. It was as if the very air in the building was different now, charged with energy, with purpose. Lyra moved with a fluid grace, her steps never faltering. Her presence was commanding, but not in a way that intimidated him. It was more like she belonged here, in this space, in this moment. She was calm, as though she had been expecting this, as though she had known all along that Jax would follow her. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but he felt something deep inside him, a pull, a connection to her that he couldn't explain. The kiss she had given him earlier had ignited something, and now it was like a fire he couldn't extinguish. They reached a door at the end of the hall, and Lyra stopped in front of it. Without a word, she pressed her hand against the door, and it slid open with a soft hiss. Jax hesitated for a moment, glancing at her. She turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "You're not just a scientist, Jax," she said quietly. "You're part of something much bigger than yourself. Your work here, what you've been doing, has been a signal to me, to the Althar." "The Althar," Jax repeated, his voice barely a whisper. "Who are they?" Lyra stepped into the room beyond the door, motioning for him to follow. "We are a race that has been watching over Earth for a long time. We have been guiding humanity, influencing its development, helping you to reach this point. But it's time for you to understand your true purpose, Jax." Jax felt a chill run down his spine. He had never believed in anything beyond what he could see and measure. The idea of an entire race watching over humanity sounded like something out of a science fiction novel, not his reality. Yet, something in Lyra's words, the way she spoke with such certainty, made him feel that this wasn't a lie. There was truth in what she was saying. He stepped into the room with her, his curiosity getting the better of him. The space was vast, far larger than it should have been for the size of the building. It looked like a control room of some kind, filled with advanced technology Jax had never seen before. Screens flickered with data, and strange devices hummed softly in the corners. Lyra moved to one of the consoles, her fingers dancing over the controls with ease. "This is just the beginning, Jax," she continued. "You've unlocked the potential to change the future, not just for yourself but for all of humanity, and you don't even know it yet." Jax approached her slowly, still unsure of what to believe. "I don't understand. What do you mean, I've unlocked the potential?" "I'm just a scientist. I study physics. I try to find answers to problems. That's all I've ever done." Lyra looked at him then, her gaze soft but firm. "That's what you think, but that's not the whole truth. What you've discovered with your research, Jax, is part of something far greater. You've tapped into knowledge that's been hidden for centuries. It's the key to understanding how the universe works, how the Althar have been able to survive for so long. And now you're about to understand why." Jax felt a stirring in his chest. It was a mix of excitement and fear, a sense of being on the edge of something monumental, but at the same time, a part of him resisted. He had spent so many years buried in his work, in his own world of equations and theories, that this felt like an invasion, like his whole life had been manipulated by forces beyond his control. "I don't know if I can believe all of this," he said, his voice tinged with doubt. Lyra's eyes narrowed and she gave him a small, reassuring smile. "I understand your skepticism, Jax, but what you're about to see will leave no room for doubt. You've been chosen for a reason. Your mind, your intellect, it's a gift. And now it's time for you to embrace it." She reached out, placing her hand on a panel beside her. The room suddenly lit up, the screens flickering to life as data began to pour in. Jax watched, transfixed, as numbers and symbols appeared on the display. He recognized some of them, equations, algorithms, and patterns that he had studied countless times. But there was something different about these equations. They were more complex, more intricate, as if they were connected to something beyond the realm of human understanding. "What are these?" Jax asked, his voice barely a whisper. "They're the foundation of everything," Lyra said. "These are the equations that govern not just the laws of physics but the very fabric of the universe itself. The Althar have known about them for millennia, and we've shared them with the most advanced civilizations we've encountered. But you, Jax, you've cracked the code. You've unlocked the potential to manipulate these laws, to shape the future." Jax took a step forward, his fingers hovering above the console. His heart raced as he tried to comprehend what he was seeing. He had spent his entire career searching for the answers to the mysteries of the universe, but this was beyond anything he had ever imagined. "You've seen glimpses of it before," Lyra continued, "in your research, in your theories, but you've never been able to connect the dots. Now you can." As she spoke, the symbols on the screen began to shift and change, forming into a three-dimensional hologram in front of them. It was a map of the universe, but not just any map. This one showed connections between galaxies, stars, and planets, as if they were all part of a grand design. Jax felt a surge of awe as he realized the enormity of what he was looking at. "This is," he began, but the words failed him. "This is the blueprint of everything," Lyra said, her voice steady but filled with an unmistakable sense of pride. "It's the key to unlocking not just the secrets of the universe, but to shaping the future of humanity. And now that you understand it, you have the power to change everything." Jax felt his pulse quicken. He had always been driven by a need to understand, to find answers. But now, standing in front of this holographic map, he realized that the answers he had sought were nothing compared to what lay ahead. His mind raced as he tried to process the magnitude of it all. He had been part of something much larger than he had ever imagined. Lyra turned to face him fully, her eyes locking with his. "You're not just a scientist, Jax. You're a key player in a much larger game. The Althar have chosen you because you have the ability to understand the bigger picture, to see the connections that others cannot. But with that ability comes responsibility. The future of humanity is in your hands now." Jax swallowed hard. The weight of her words settled over him like a heavy cloak. He had never asked for this, never sought to be a part of something so grand. But now that he was here, now that he understood what was at stake, he realized that there was no turning back. He looked at Lyra, his mind still reeling, but a new sense of determination began to take root in his chest. "What do I need to do?" he asked, his voice steady. Lyra smiled, a glint of approval in her eyes. "Now, Jax, you learn how to use your gift, and you prepare for what comes next." The days that followed were a blur for Jax. The world he had known, a world filled with equations, research, and the comfort of routine, seemed to have been erased. Everything had changed. Lyra's words echoed in his mind, each one building upon the last. The Althar, a race beyond human comprehension, had chosen him for something greater, something he hadn't even begun to understand. His work had always been about discovery, but now it felt like he was being thrust into a future he wasn't prepared for. Yet deep down, he felt a strange sense of purpose. The knowledge he had unlocked, the map of the universe Lyra had shown him, was far more than he could ever have dreamed of. It was as if the key to the cosmos itself had been placed in his hands. Lyra continued to guide him, each lesson drawing him deeper into the mystery of the Althar's influence. She was patient, but firm, as if she had seen this journey unfold countless times before. It was clear that she believed in him, in his potential, even when he wasn't sure he could believe in himself. One evening, after another long day of studying the Althar's technology, Jax sat alone in the control room. The soft hum of the machines was the only sound that filled the air. His mind was tired but restless. He couldn't stop thinking about the implications of everything he had learned. The map of the universe, the connections between galaxies, stars, and planets, it was all so overwhelming. And yet, there was a part of him that was excited, that couldn't wait to dive deeper into the mysteries he had only scratched the surface of. Lyra entered the room quietly, her footsteps barely audible. She stood behind him for a moment, watching him study the holographic map. "You're thinking too much," she said softly. Jax turned to look at her, his brow furrowed. "I can't help it. This is too much, Lyra. I don't know how to process it all. You're telling me that I have the ability to change the course of humanity's future. How am I supposed to handle that?" Lyra's expression softened, and she stepped closer to him. "You're not alone in this, Jax. You never were. I've been guiding you because I believe in you. But this is your journey, your path. You'll figure it out just like you've always done. You're a scientist, Jax. You solve problems. This is just another problem, but it's bigger than any equation you've ever faced." Jax's mind raced, but her words brought him a sense of calm. She was right. He had always been a problem solver, but this wasn't a problem with a simple solution. This was a puzzle on a scale he could barely comprehend. "I don't even know where to begin," he admitted. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of reassurance. "Start by understanding the map. It's more than just stars and planets. It's a web. Each point, each connection is a part of a much larger system. The Althar have studied this for centuries. Now it's your turn. You have the knowledge inside you to make the connections, to understand what's at stake." Jax nodded slowly, her words sinking in. He turned back to the holographic map, focusing on the patterns that had once seemed so incomprehensible. The more he studied it, the more he began to see the connections. It was like a symphony, each star, each galaxy, each line of energy, all working together in a delicate balance. And in the center of it all there was Earth, his home, the place where everything began. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the speakers, interrupting his thoughts. It was a harsh, mechanical sound, out of place in the otherwise peaceful atmosphere. Jack straightened, his heart skipping a beat. Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable. "What is it?" she asked. Jax reached for the control panel, his fingers flying over the keys. The source of the signal was coming from outside the building, from somewhere deep within the city. It was an encrypted transmission, something he had never seen before. Lyra's gaze sharpened as she stepped closer. "Who's sending that?" "I don't know," Jax replied, his mind racing. "But it's not coming from any of our systems. This is something else." He worked quickly, trying to decode the message. As the encryption cracked, the words began to form on the screen. Jax's breath caught in his throat when he saw the message. "The Vathar are coming. Prepare for war." Jax's heart dropped. The Vathar. He had heard of them, an ancient, ruthless race that had been in conflict with the Althar for centuries. They were feared throughout the galaxy, known for their advanced weaponry and their hunger for power. Lyra's face hardened as she read the message over his shoulder. "They're here," she said, her voice low, almost a growl. "The Vathar have found us." Jax turned to look at her, his mind spinning. "What do we do?" Lyra didn't answer right away. Instead, she moved to the console, her fingers flying over the keys as she accessed more data. "We prepare," she said, her voice steady now. "The Vathar will stop at nothing to destroy us, but they're not prepared for what's coming, not for you." Jax felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean, not for me?" Lyra turned to face him, her eyes filled with a fierce determination. "You have something they want, Jax, your knowledge, your abilities. You're the key to stopping them. The Vathar know this. They've been tracking you for months. They think they can destroy you, but they have no idea what you're capable of." Jax felt a rush of fear and excitement. The weight of the situation settled over him like a heavy cloak, but he knew she was right. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about something far bigger. The future of humanity was at stake, and he was the only one who could change its course. "We need to move fast," Lyra said, her voice sharp. "We can't let them get to you. If they do, everything we've worked for will be lost." Jax nodded, his mind already working through the possibilities. "What do we need to do?" Lyra smiled slightly, her confidence reassuring. "We fight. We prepare the defenses, we make sure you're ready, and when the Vathar arrive, we show them what you can do." The room was suddenly filled with a sense of urgency. Lyra wasted no time, and neither did Jax. The next few hours were a blur of activity as they prepared for the impending threat. Jax felt the weight of it all, his research, his discovery, his purpose, all crashing down on him. He wasn't just a scientist anymore. He was humanity's last hope. As they worked, Lyra stayed by his side, guiding him every step of the way. She taught him how to harness the power within him, how to use his knowledge to fight back against the Vathar. It wasn't easy. There were moments when Jax felt like he couldn't keep up, but every time he faltered, Lyra was there, reminding him of what was at stake. By the time the Vathar arrived, Jax was ready. He had unlocked the full extent of his abilities, tapping into the energy that flowed through the universe itself. And when the enemy came, they were met not with a defenseless scientist, but with a warrior. The battle that ensued was unlike anything Jax had ever imagined. The Vathar were powerful, ruthless, and relentless, but Jax, with the guidance of Lyra, fought back with a strength he had never known he had. He was no longer just a man, he was a force. And in that moment, Jax realized that this was just the beginning. The fate of the galaxy rested on his shoulders, and he was ready to face whatever came next.